What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and it is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day. It is the end of February, thank God. February is such a long month. It's such a long month. It's the shortest month of the year, but it's a long month. We have had this week. Um, Up and down and up and down and up and down, but I'm so pleased because today it's sort of staying in that upper range. So everything is melting. All of the ice is going away. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So welcome, Jackie Mott of Subliminal Mindset Mastery in London, Ontario. And you are with me today on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am so pleased to be with you today. Today, I'm very hopeful. Today's going to be a really yummy show. Today we are talking about what do you desire? What do you desire? Have you ever thought about that? So I'm going to share a bit about my story because I never did. I actually sort of operated in this space of almost a not allowance for me to actually desire anything for myself. Interesting, right? And I'm sure that other people do that. So today we're going to talk about what we can do to get clarity on what we want for ourselves and start to manifest that into our lives. And I didn't even realize I was looking at the show lineup this morning. Next week, we're actually going to go into the manifesting process. So we're not going to go too deeply into that today. We'll go a little bit, but you'll have to come back next week for the next segment where we actually talk about the nuts and bolts of the manifesting. Yum. Yum, yum, yum. It is such a perfect time of year for all of this, right? Because one of the things that we're right on the edge of spring. You can almost feel it. And thank God, because we've been locked up indoors all winter, and all of the stuff that's going on, and I just can't wait to get out in my yard again. I can't wait to sit out there and listen to the birds and feel the sun on my face, and oh, I'm so excited for that. So here we go. On Time to Rise and Thrive, we talk a lot about our subliminal soundtrack. We talk about how to get it working for us rather than against us. We talk about seeing our own unique beauty and value. Mm, and who doesn't need that? Who doesn't need to see some of that beauty in themselves? Because I promise you it's there. You may not have seen it yet, but I promise you it's there. So this is the stuff that we talk about. We talk about all kinds of yummy, juicy, sometimes tough, but it's good. It's all good. So, have you ever asked yourself what you desire? We get so busy meeting the needs and desires of others that sometimes we forget to consider ourselves. That is my story. And I promise you, I know several other women out there who have done the same thing. I'm not, in all honesty, I'm not going to say that men don't do that too, but I don't know. I really don't know, but I know for sure that a lot of us women, we take on all of the burdens of the family and the kids and the household and that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, sometimes we just have nothing left to think about what would make me happy. So we're going to talk about that throughout the show. What would make you happy? Take some time to sit with that. I don't think I even knew that until I was in my 40s. So like if you're younger than 40s, then you're in good shape to get this ball rolling soon. Sooner than I did. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the subliminal soundtrack. So this is my term. I've heard it called other things, internal script, internal dialogue, but my term is subliminal soundtrack. And I think about that because there's like this loop of messages that plays in the back of our minds all day every day, and that soundtrack is made up of messages that have been created throughout our entire lives. So it's every conversation, every relationship, every lesson you've ever learned, every circumstance you've ever faced has caused you to form a belief system around whatever those circumstances were. And here's the really interesting thing: even if it is not based on factual information, whatever you believe to be true will be true for you. And that is where you will make decisions and choices, and who do you bring into your world, and what opportunities do you jump at, and what opportunities do you shy away from. All of that stuff is controlled by your subliminal soundtrack. It's interesting, right? And it's so important for us to get some clarity on what is going on back there because very often, we've been carrying around these messages since we were little children. And the ideas that we got from other people when we were little children, they may not even be true for us, but we act and we make our decisions and we create our life around what do we believe to be true. It's very interesting. I find this actually quite fascinating. Now that I'm actually getting to a place where I really understand it, it is absolutely fascinating to me. So, if you believe that being a good person means that you are selfless, or that being a selfless person somehow shows your love, then you will give and 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 probably never expect a whole lot in return. You will not pursue the things that will bring you joy if they're not in alignment with you being a selfless person. Interesting, right? But if you believe that your desires are important, they are, and that you are a priority too, because this isn't about taking anything away from someone else. It's about making yourself a priority too, adding to the mix, not taking anything away, but adding to the mix. Interesting. You will make sure your own needs are met. You'll make sure that they're met. You'll create time and space to work toward what you desire, whatever that is. It could be a hobby, it could be a business, it could be a job, it could be pursuing more education, it could be anything, but you will make the time and space to pursue those things and you will create the opportunities for those things to come into your world. Because the people that you bring in, the situations that you bring in, the things that you engage with will be aligned with those desires, with what you dream about. What you dream about. I'm telling you, I don't know what's gotten into me this morning, but I am just jazzed to talk about this. It's crazy. So on our website, we are currently phoenixcoach.ca, and very soon, very, very soon, and I've been saying this for weeks, subliminalmindsetmastery.com is coming. So on the phoenixcoach.ca website, you will find a free download, and it is called 3 Easy Ways to Reset Your Subliminal Soundtrack. I rewrote that article. So when the new website comes up, you're going to want to go and grab that one too. And that one is 5 steps to create a mindset wired for success, I believe is what it's called. So it's been rewritten. It's new information that I've learned over the last couple of years. It's actually quite juicy. So when that comes up, I will let you know on the show. Just pay attention. Just pay attention. You'll find us. All right. So, wherever you are in your life, this is the key. Wherever you are in your life, there is the opportunity to go after your dreams. As long as you are still breathing, you have an opportunity to go after your dreams. It's not about I'm too old. It's not, well, I mean, I suppose that might come into play for certain things. Maybe. Maybe if your dream is to have 4 kids and you're 50 years old, I'm not sure how that would work, but I suppose you could still adopt, right? It's getting out of the box and seeing what other opportunities and possibilities are available to us. Uh, it's magical. It is absolutely magical for us to do this. So here's the thing. And so we all know, if you've been paying attention to the show, you know that I actually became a mom when I was 17 years old. And believe me, that shifted a lot of things in my world. I had responsibilities that I hadn't anticipated having any time in that moment of my life. And so what resulted from that was that most of the decisions that I made were geared toward me being a mom and doing what was right for the family unit, not about doing what was right for Jackie. So, where this really actually came up for me was shortly after we lost my sister. And, people talk about this, and I am here to tell you it's true. When you lose somebody suddenly who is young, it gives you a different, it gives the timeline of your life a different importance. And so I would have been, I think, in my early 40s when that happened. And, my son then, of course, was in his 20s. There was a whole lot of stuff. I was at a stage in my life where My responsibilities were not going to hold me back anymore. They didn't have to. I could allow them to, but they didn't have to because I wasn't needed in the same capacities or in the same ways as I had been when he was young. So when that happened, it jarred my world in a way that actually was really great because it helped me to start to see that I really wasn't very happy. And like, look at this smile. Man, I got good at pasting that smile all over everything, even though there were parts of me that were so sad and so hurt. Uh, and there was a truth behind it. It wasn't that I was being fake as much as it wasn't that I was able to recognize these places where I wasn't functioning for my happiness or for my highest good. There were things, people, relationships, career stuff that had served me very well over, that time period. But it was time to start to let those things go. And that can be a hard thing to do. And it can be a really hard thing to recognize, especially when we have these ideas about what it means, what it means to be married, what it means to have responsibilities, what it means to be a mom, what it means to be whatever those things are, what it means to be responsible for somebody else in any capacity. When we have those belief systems, it can be very difficult to break free of those responsibilities or those feelings of being connected and it being a wrongness to allow that connection to fall apart. It can be so hard. But if we want to get to those places, sometimes it's required. Sometimes it's necessary that we let go of those situations and those people and whatever it may be. Sometimes it's necessary for us to let those things go because not only do they no longer serve us, but we probably aren't serving them terribly well at that point either. So, understanding that releasing people and releasing situations is sometimes the best thing, not only for us, but also for them. Really crazy, right? I find that, especially the further I get away from the marriage ending, the easier it gets for me to be with this idea of just releasing and allowing people to go on and do what's good for them, and also allowing myself to go on and do what's right for me. Isn't that wonderful? It's wonderful. It's hard, but it's wonderful when you get to the other side. So this whole idea came to me that all of the major decisions that I had ever made in my life were in this context of what is right for us. There had never, I don't think, even been a time where I had really considered what is right for me. What do I desire? What will make me happy? Because I was still so tied into all of those responsibilities and those ideas about commitments and all of that. And you can feel that, right? It's constricting in a certain way, and it's constricting because it doesn't allow you to show up sometimes as who you truly be. And that's the part that sort of ties us up and gets us into that box where we then need to break out of it. Yeah. So it's so important for us to recognize and understand that our desires are important and that we need to be a priority in our own lives. Like we really do. You've got to take care of yourself. I know I had a client stop by yesterday and she is a psychotherapist and we were talking about this whole thing about like this almost burnout or exhaustion that's happening for people who have been trying to support other people throughout the pandemic, and it's absolutely true. You see it all over the place. So if you're one of those people, please, please, please take some time and do something that is just for you. I'm telling you, I'll tell you right now, actually, what I'm going to do after the show is over. I've got to drop off some files and then I am heading to a beach that I love and it's cold, and I'm going to bundle up and I'm going to walk on that beach because that is what my soul needs today. So find something, find a way to feed yourself and feed your soul. Okay. That's the thing. So when we are in this place of responsibility and commitment and all, like, feel the energy of those words. responsibility and commitment, and there's not a lot of fun to be had. There's not a lot of fun to be had. And that was what happened in my world. It was whether it was work in my career or work in my home or work for my family, it was always work. And there wasn't a lot of fun to be had. So when we get to the point where we start to understand that our desires are important as well, then we can start to create those circumstances that bring us that yummy, juicy, that laughter and joy and bliss and all of that kind of stuff. That's when we can start to figure that stuff out. So if you are in that position that I was in a few years ago, where you just feel sort of bound and tied and responsible and committed and all of that sort of stuff, stick with me. We're going to take our first break in just a second. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this. So I am Jackie Mott, your host of A Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you?
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
And we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about getting clarity on what we want for ourselves, what we would like to create in our own lives, and how to go about starting to manifest that. Oh, yum, yum, yum. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit right now. I had sort of an awareness come to me this morning, and be gentle with yourself, because this is the stuff that I teach. The subliminal soundtrack is the stuff that I teach, and I'm good at teaching it. And I know this stuff. I know it inside out, upside down, and backwards. And this morning, I had an awareness that I was actually holding myself back. And I was holding myself back because of some of that stuff that was playing in my own subliminal soundtrack. It's so interesting when you actually catch yourself and you're like, oh, funny girl, silly, silly. You know better than this. Yes, you know better than this. So please, as you go through your process, as you go through this idea of thinking about different possibilities and different ideas, and maybe where you are getting stuck on your own subliminal soundtrack, be gentle with yourselves, man. Be gentle, because even I, even I still struggle with this stuff. I call it dancing with my demons. And I had somebody actually call me on that a week or two ago. She was like, I don't really like that idea, dancing with these demons. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. I'm not talking about like evil beings that live outside of us. I'm talking about those monsters that hide in our own head, those monsters that we have to challenge our thinking. They come up and they go, oh, hey, remember me? And you go, yes, I do. Bye-bye. You see what I'm saying? So the dancing with your demons is a part of this that I really quite like. I really quite enjoy it. And like out dancing them. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I sort of perceive it as this thing of you can't catch me. Oh man, I got my silly on today. This is so nice. I got to tell you, it's so nice to laugh. And I've got a great crew with me. Kim and Christine are with me today, and both of them are kind of poking at me there. It's awesome. It is awesome. Okay, so getting back to the subject at hand. What do you desire? So here's the stuff that I was thinking about this morning as I was going through this process that I go through of um preparing for the show. I make a little outline. I think about the things that I'd like to talk about or I'd like to touch on. And this is the thing. We really need to get clear on stuff. So I'm going to share with you some of these lessons that I learned. Sometimes we don't really desire the thing that we think we desire. I know it's kind of screwy, right? But here's what happened to me. So I had gone about, I love horses. Let's just preface it by saying I love horses. I love the beings. I love the energy. I love riding them. I love brushing them. I love horses. Okay. And I have since I was a teenager. I had a cousin who had, I don't know if it was two or three horses, and I would go down on March break and summer break and I would help watch the kids and, clean out stalls and feed, all of it. I took care of the horses. He taught me how. I'm sure there were a lot of things he didn't teach me, but I did take care of them. And so I had this idea in my head for the longest time that I wanted to have a couple of horses. And, sort of dreamed about this and had all of these ideas about this. And then one day, a lady that I know who had, I don't even know how many she had, say four. Say she had four horses. Her and I connected on Facebook the one day, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to come out and give me a hand with the horses?" I was like, "Yes, of course I do." So we set up a time, and I drove out to her farm, and I didn't realize that the horses, it was very cold. It was probably about this time of the year. So it's wet and mucky, and then it freezes, right? Wet, mucky, freeze, wet, mucky, freeze. It's sort of the cycle that we go through here in Ontario. Um, and there had been a couple of mucky days, and then it had frozen. So these horses had been out in the cold and in the mud, and they were caked, like just caked with mud all over their bodies, and their manes and their tails. It was just awful. And so I went out there, and it was freezing, like really cold, and I'm out there, and I'm like, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, it'll be something fun." Well, it turned out that what she needed me to do was brush the horses. Oh man, did I ever get an education that day? I was like, "Man, oh man, I do not want to do this. I do not want to be responsible for this." So I left there with a completely different understanding of a thing that I had built up in my head for probably 20 or more years, of being the ultimate dream that I wanted. I wanted those horses. I wanted those horses. But what I shifted it to was, I would love to have horses as long as there's someone else that gets to take care of them when these things happen. So sometimes the thing that you think you desire turns into something different, or maybe you don't even desire it at all. That is an interesting thing that we got to think about. So, the next thing that I'm going to share with you is, sometimes when we get clarity, it is completely different than we once imagined. So I used to have this idea, and it was a wonderful idea. It was a wonderful idea. I wanted to create this place, and it was going to be called the Lighthouse Foundation. And it was a building. It was a building, and we were going to help women who were leaving abusive situations. We weren't going to be like the shelter place, but we were going to help those women to get some job skills, to, get some clothes, to bring up their self-confidence and all kinds of stuff. And I'm telling you, I could walk through the hallways. I could hear the things that were going on. I could hear the laughter. I could hear the conversations. I could smell certain things that were going on. We were going to have a great big greenhouse, and we were going to have some animals, and we were going to have, there's your horses. We were going to have all kinds of stuff. There'd be a daycare center. There'd be classrooms. There'd be a big gym for the kids to play in, and the adults too. Oh, and by the way, there was an indoor pool, because I want an indoor pool. right? So all of these things in one building. And I latched on to that dream as being the thing that I so wanted to make happen. And then I started to understand some stuff as time went on. I started to understand that, in order to get government approvals and government fundings and so on and so forth, there were so many rules, so many hoops that you had to jump through. And then, I started to think about how much would it cost to keep this thing running? Like, how much would it cost to build this building that I was seeing in my head? How much would it cost to staff it? How much would it cost to keep the lights on? Do you see what I'm saying? So there was all kinds of stuff, and I was like, "Oh man!" So that took me, when I started to understand these things, it took me into a different place where I was like, "Oh no, I don't think I can. I don't think I can." Here's what I came to one day. I realized that for this, the reason for this Lighthouse Foundation dream was that I wanted to help other women. I wanted to help other women feel empowered and strong and break free of those things that were hurting them. I wanted to make sure that kids were well fed. I wanted to, do you see what I'm saying? So it was all contained in that beautiful building that I could walk through and hear the sounds and smell the things. It was all there. But what I realized one day is, we've talked about that ripple effect. We've talked about it a lot of times on this show. And what I realized one day was that it only takes me helping one woman shift her perspective, see her value, see her beauty, stand for herself and her children. One woman. One woman changes her children's lives. She changes her immediate circle's lives. She changes her circumstances. And the ripples just go out and out and out from there, because who knows who she talks to that then helps somebody else. And do you see what I'm saying? So we drop the pebble in the pond and we have no idea where the ripples will end up. No idea. You do not have to help people on a massive scale in order to help people and make big waves. Big waves. You change one person. Well, you don't change them. You help one person change. That's it. Kim says those are some powerful ripples. They really are. They do become waves. There is no doubt in my mind. It's like that is it the butterfly effect? And they talk about how a butterfly, thousands of miles away, they wiggle their wings, whatever the word is. They flap their wings, and thousands of miles away there's a tsunami. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the next thing that I want to sort of throw out there for you to consider is that sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes the timing. Christine, you're such a pain. Christine says, LOL, that was funny. Wiggle your wings. Yes, wiggle your wings. We can do that too. We can do that too. You can't see my wings yet. Yet. All right. So sometimes the timing isn't right. The truth of the matter is that when I was 17 years old with a brand new baby, there were a lot of things that were way out there. It was not possible for me to do certain things. The opportunities weren't there. I didn't know the people. I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have the knowledge that I needed to accomplish certain things at that time. So it's great to get those dreams in your head, those desires in your head, and start to feel them. But sometimes they're out there a ways, right? If your world is involving, like hockey games and dance recitals and family meals and all of getting everybody to where they're supposed to be at the right time, maybe now isn't the right time for you to pursue this stuff, but you can still start to dream about it and think about it. All right, you can still start to do that stuff. And then there's something that, sometimes there's another thing that we realize we desire more. Hmm. I started this bookkeeping business years and years and years ago, and I thought it was the cat's meow for a very long time. And then I started to understand that I actually like to speak, and I like to teach, and I like to coach, and I like to do other things. So we need to allow things to be kind of fluid because they will develop over time. They will develop over time. And if you try to put it in a box and make it be the Lighthouse Foundation in that building with all of those factors, maybe you don't end up getting to the goal. Maybe you don't get there because you've decided that this is what it must be. And if you're not able to make that happen, then you just let it go. You just let it go. But you don't have to let it go. You can still work on creating it. It just might show up differently than you're expecting it to be. So, you are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive. I am your host, Jackie Mott. We are on Inspired Choices Network. We're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to give you a few tips. I'm going to give you a couple of steps to think about as you start to work on this what do I desire thing. So, stick with us. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about what do you desire? Ooh, it really is such a yummy thing. When you start to play around with this, oh man, the stuff that starts to show up is pretty great too. So I'm going to give you just a couple of quick little insights as to what's going on in my world. You just heard the commercial for the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program. It is in beta group format. It is an 8-week program. We are in week 5 right now. So far, the feedback has been really great. Really, really great. I'm excited to bring that out into the world, and that will be happening in the very near future. Creating your life on purpose is also something that I'm going to be offering online in the very near future. I'm just waiting for the website to be completely done, and it should be very, very soon. We'll be running the free webinar masterclass things for each of those. So we're going to be starting with the Creating Your Life on Purpose program. That one is also an 8-week program. And it was sort of the thing that I created when I came to this place that we're talking about today, where I started to understand that I really wasn't very happy and started to play around with, well, what could I do differently? So that was the program that I created then. We talk about all kinds of wonderful, yummy, juicy, lovely things in that program. It's so much fun. I cannot wait to bring it out into the world. So just pay attention and keep listening, and you will see the information come on that. You can find us on Facebook at Subliminal Mindset Mastery. Again, the subliminalmindsetmastery.com will be coming up soon, but we are still on phoenixcoach.ca. And even after the other website comes live, that phoenixcoach.ca will still point you to the new website. So find us wherever you like. Come and play with me. I have so much fun. I really do have so much fun. All right. So getting back to our topic of the day, what do you desire? These are the steps that I came up with this morning. I'm thinking about all of this stuff and it's wonderful. So the first step is you've got to get clarity. Just like I did with those horses, just like I did with the Lighthouse Foundation, you've got to get some clarity around what is it that you actually desire. So start to think about those things. Get really, really quiet just for a few minutes. And even if you've got small kids, you can usually find a few minutes somewhere in your day. Find a quiet spot where no one's going to bother you. Close your eyes, breathe a little bit, and ask yourself, what would make me happy? What make me happy? It's okay for you to ask that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to sort of take us off course for just a second here, because here's the other thing that we don't always think about. When we are in a position, especially as a parent or a teacher or, somebody in a position of authority anywhere you are, how we present ourselves, especially to young children, it is presenting that example. So if we are going through our lives and we are meeting everyone else's needs and we are taking care of everyone else and we never think about ourselves and we never do anything nice for ourselves, what do you think we're teaching our daughters? What do you think we're teaching our daughters or our nieces or our so start to ask yourself, would this life that I'm living, would this be something that I would want for my daughter or my niece or my sister or my mom or my best friend? Start to ask yourself those questions. Because, like I said, you are in a position, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. As long as you are on this side of the dirt, you have an opportunity to change things. That's all you need. That's all you need. All right. So, when you get into your quiet space and you ask yourself, what would make me happy? Just let yourself be with that for a few minutes. And a really great way to work with this stuff is to journal. Really great way to work with this. So, what happens when we journal is a couple of things. The first thing is that there's something that happens when you take a pen and a piece of paper and you actually write it down. There's something that happens that makes it real. It's not just in our heads anymore. It makes it real if we put it on a piece of paper. Okay. So that's one of the things that happens. The other thing that can happen once you get a little bit practiced with this thing is that as you're journaling, you can just get to a point where you're writing out whatever's coming and you will have probably some very interesting realizations will come to you in that process. It's happened to me a million times when I get really, really stuck. So I don't tend to do, I've got tendonitis, so I don't tend to do a lot of like physical writing, but I'll type. And so when I get really sort of in my head and things are upside down and stressed and it's not working very well, one of the things that I do is I sit down at my computer and I just type. It's the same process as a journal, and I just let whatever wants to flow out, let it flow, let it flow, let it go. Do you see what I'm saying? So the journaling can be very, very important because it can help us to understand what's holding us back, where we're at, why we're not moving forward, all of that kind of stuff. So ask yourself, what would make me happy? And then allow yourself to write it down or speak it out in some way. Find your tribe, find your people, find your best friend and say, I had the most interesting thing happen to me today. Can we talk? Can we talk? I just need to talk it through. If you got a tribe, they won't mind. In fact, they probably will love it. I know it's one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite things to do. So, the second thing that you're going to do, the second step is to ask yourself what is required. What is required in this thing? So, do I need to go back to school? Do I need to buy a farm? Do I need to whatever it is? What is required of me to have this thing? So go back to the Lighthouse Foundation. It would require me to be in a position where I made enough money to build this building, to buy the land, build the building, buy all of the stuff, pay the staff, all of that kind of stuff. So there would be a financial piece, and there very often is a financial piece to anything that we would like to pursue. It would require me to change a lot of my lifestyle. A lot of my lifestyle. Do you see what I'm saying? So what would be required? Another thing that I always dreamed about being was a sign language interpreter. So I used to, I'm a weirdo. I'm a total weirdo. When I was a teenager, I didn't even know anybody that was deaf, but I've always found sign language fascinating. So I put myself in a position where one of the teachers at our local school for the hearing impaired and the deaf, um, I put myself in a position where he actually allowed me to come into their class, and he allowed me to learn the sign language. And then he was a grade 2 teacher. He had me come into the class and help him sometimes with the kids. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. There was no real need for that to be in my life, but it was something that I found really exciting and wonderful to do. And the thing of it is we need to ask ourselves what would be required. I got to a certain place in my life where for me to become an interpreter, these were the requirements. So there are courses that you need to take. Well, those courses are not offered in my city. So Toronto is about 2 hours away. Windsor is about 2 hours away. And they were available in either of those two cities. They were not available where I lived. So I've got a teenage child at home, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how am I going to make that work? How am I going to make that work to do this 2 hour commute 5 days a week to make that thing happen? It wasn't realistic. It wasn't realistic. And maybe it would have been for other people. You know, in my world, it was not something that I jumped all over. But I'll tell you this, when we lived in Alberta, there was an ASL sign language course that was offered through, I don't know, whatever it was, some organization. And I went and I did level 1 and level 2. It would have required a whole lot more for me to actually take that and turn it into a career or a business. But it was fun for me to pick up that thing that I had enjoyed so much when I was a teenager. It was fun for me to pick it up and play with it again. And it really fed my soul. So that's another thing that you want to be paying attention to. What is feeding your soul? What part of this? Maybe it's not the whole thing. Maybe there's a piece of it, like I discovered. There's a piece of it that you really do desire that would make you very, very happy. But I don't want to brush the horses when they're covered in frozen mud. Like, I do not want to try and get a comb through that big long tail when it is covered in frozen mud. And you must do that because it will hurt them. It will hurt them and pull their hair and all that kind of stuff. It's one of the things that's necessary when you're taking care of that animal. So, what is required? And then the last thing that I put in here is test the water. Test the water. Do the research. Find out those things. Where is the course offered? What's it like to actually take care of these horses? What would be required for me to have this foundation place that I've dreamed about? What would be required? All right. And testing the water is this idea of I didn't used to speak in public. In fact, I actually was afraid, believe it or not. I was afraid to get up on stage, which is one of the big, I think it's like the top fear. I think it's even above dying, in all honesty. I'm pretty sure that that's the statistic that I heard. So I used to be afraid of public speaking. But after this sort of transformation started in my world, when we lost my sister, I started to go out and share. And I wasn't sharing I was sharing from a place of wanting to support other people who were going through this shock and this jarring of their lives. I wanted to share with them my grief journey and what it looked like and what I did that helped me and what I did that didn't. And that was where it started. And before I knew it, I was speaking in front of groups of hundreds of people. Haven't yet gotten in front of thousands, but see, yet it's coming. It's coming. So test the water and see what feels good. See what feels good. It might be that the thing, like we said, it might be something different. It might show up in a different way. It might be a piece of it that is really the thing that you want. And it presents itself in this way. But really, all I want is this one little part, just this one little part over here. So test the water, see what's out there, see what possibilities present themselves. And it's also about the presenting of the possibilities. Pay attention. Pay attention to what happens around you because sometimes these things will pop up. I promise you, a couple of years ago, if you had told me that I was going to be on here talking to you today, I never would have believed you. I never would have believed you because it was one of these things where here's an opportunity that shows up and I went, oh, but I wasn't aware of it before that. So pay attention to what happens around you that might lead you in a direction that would feel good for you. So we are going to head to our last break of the show. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this conversation about what do you desire. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back. This is our last segment of Time to Rise and Thrive. Today, you are with me on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, and today we are talking about what do you desire? Yummy, yum, yum, yum. All right. So the last thing that I want to sort of share with you today is allowing yourself to dream. This was something that it didn't come very natural to me. I tend to be a pretty left-brained person. And, so when you talk about thinking about things and figuring things out and solving problems and, puzzles and things like that, man, that is my natural zone. But interesting because I also have another natural zone that I didn't know about because I'd never developed it. I'd never paid attention to it. I'd never actually, even really played with it. So allowing yourself to dream is where this gets really juicy, really, really juicy. So the process of allowing yourself to dream goes something like this. Just think about that thing. Think about that thing. Now, maybe let's just say you want to go on a trip to a beautiful tropical location. Let's just say that's one of the things that would make you happy. So think about that. Think about that. And not in a left brain kind of way. I want you to experience it. What would it mean? What would it look like? So, what do you imagine going on that trip would feel like? What would be the things that were happening around you? What would be the things that you were tasting and smelling? And are you on the beach, laying on the beach, listening to the waves crash? Or is it someplace where the water is just really nice and slow? What sounds do you hear? Do you hear the birds? Do you hear the people down the way that are playing maybe volleyball or something like that? What do you hear? What is happening around you when you are on this trip in your head? All right. What's happening around you? What is the experience like? Are you there by yourself or do you take maybe your special person with you? What does it feel like for them to maybe rub some of that suntan lotion on your back and who knows where that leads? Are your kids with you? Are your kids with you? Do you hear them playing in the surf? Do you see them building sand castles? Are are you in a place where there's a food thing that's available to you. I have always, I'll tell you one of mine, I have always wanted to taste like a fresh pineapple right off the tree, or a fresh mango that is like it's just right there and you just have to pick it and cut it open and yum, yum, yum. Do you see what I'm saying? So, what would it be like to experience that thing? What would it be like to be in that space and to have whomever would feel nice to have with you on that trip? Who would feel like, or how would it feel to have those things in your world? So visualize it. Where are you? What do you see? What is happening around you? How does it feel emotionally? How does it feel physically? Maybe you can actually get yourself into a space where you can feel the sunlight on your face, or the gentle breeze, or maybe it's the splashing of the water. Maybe you can get yourself into that space. If you really get good at this visualization thing, you can hear those things, you can feel those things, you can see those things from a chair in your home or from your bed. You can actually get there. All right. So that's the stuff to pay attention to. What does it feel like? And then as you're going through your day-to-day life, pay attention to what's happening around you. I personally have the belief system that every one of us has intuition, and I've never been proven wrong on this one. I'm not talking about talking to dead people or anything like that, but your intuition is that thing where like you walk into a room and you feel a certain way. You can feel things. You can feel things around you. Okay. That's your intuition and that's your radar, right? So when you are going about your day-to-day life, who do you meet that maybe feels similar to that energy that you had when you were on that beach? Who do you come into contact with? Where do you be? What opportunity shows up and you're like, ooh, maybe that would help me get to where I want to go. Maybe that would help me get there. Pay attention to those spidey senses, the awarenesses, all of that kind of stuff. Pay attention to that, because who knows what you could create? Who knows what you could create? All of that stuff is like there are millions and millions and millions and millions of possibilities out there. This is where our subliminal soundtrack can get us off course, because we believe that it has to be this way. This is the only way. My Lighthouse Foundation with that beautiful building was the only way for a long time for me to accomplish that thing. Okay. So play around with it and see what feels light for you, and what opportunities present themselves, what situations present themselves that you're like, ooh, this feels yummy. This feels like it could be going in that right direction. Pay attention to that stuff. And that's where we're going to leave it today. Come back next week and we're going to talk more about the manifesting, the actual the skills that you need to get to actually start to make these things happen. So here's the quote that I'm going to leave you with. It was one that I wrote when I was working on this morning. Wherever you are in your life, there's the opportunity to go after your dreams. As long as you are still breathing, there's the opportunity to go after your dreams. You aren't too old. You are important. Your needs and desires are important. So what is holding you back? It's up to you. What do you choose? What do you choose? That is a thing. It is a thing. And I really, really dearly hope that you will play with that this week. So you have been with us on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. We are going to be back next week, next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain Time, and 10 Pacific. Next week's show is called Manifest Your Dreams, What is Required? We'll be talking about the how of the manifesting on next week's show. So make sure you come back and join us next week. Don't forget to go and download that 3 easy ways to reset your subliminal soundtrack. Don't forget to do that. And remember the new website, it's an even upgraded, more juicy and yummy version of that article will be available for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. We've been on Inspired Choices Network. This is Time to Rise and Thrive. I just love doing this show, and I've got such amazing support people. Kim and Christine are with me today. They're amazing. I just appreciate everything they do so, so very much. So I am Jackie Mott, your host, Subliminal Mindset Mastery in London, Ontario. Till next week, it's time to rise and thrive.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.